You're listening to How to 20-something, the best podcast that helps both men and women navigate their 20s and learn how to adult across all aspects of their lives. We're going to focus on career, relationships, finances, fitness, nutrition, and all of the common challenges and obstacles a typical 20-something will face in this post-college life. I'm your host, Jess Diamond, and I am the CEO and founder of Jess Diamond Coaching, where I help young professionals get their shit together, gain their confidence, and own their life. No one prepares you for this adulting world, so allow me to help you feel like you are no longer a chicken running around with its head cut off, and that you actually know what the hell is going on and what your next step to take is. Welcome to How to 20-something. Welcome back to How to 20-something, where today I'm going to be talking to you about a really common occurrence that happens across any area in your life and at any time: burnout. I hear from friends and clients about how overwhelmed they feel with their life and that they are approaching burnout. And this could be in terms of their career. It's really common in the healthcare field, especially with nurses. This could be in terms of dating, which is honestly how this episode came to be when my friend Dave asked if I had an episode that talked about getting burnt out in the dating world. And I said no, but I'm going to make a note to create one, only it's going to encompass various aspects of feeling burnt out. So here we are. Another one could be burning yourself out in the gym. As someone who practically lives in the gym, I hear this one a lot from people who come on a week trial at F45, which is where I coach group fitness. They usually say something along the lines of they're looking for something new because they got burnt out from what they were previously doing, or they haven't worked out for X amount of time because they got burnt out. And then people honestly just feel burnt out with life sometimes in general because so much is happening all the time and they're perpetually exhausted or overwhelmed, as I've already mentioned. Which brings me to my first point in this episode, and that is why burnout happens. I believe burnout is a side effect of poor time management, boundaries, and planning. I also believe burnout really comes into full force in your 20s because everything is new for you. Every experience you encounter, both the good and bad ones, is brand new to you, and on that note, new to you having to tackle on your own. This stage of life is also marked by the pressure to build a career, develop financial independence, and maintain a social life, all while figuring out your identity and your life direction. It's overwhelming for you to navigate one obstacle after another when you haven't developed the skills, mindset, coping mechanisms, or resources to help you in that time of need. A lot of my clients come to me when they are sick of trying to battle their own obstacles on their own, and I get to help them move through this chapter of their life much more quickly and smoothly because we come up with a strategy together to help them take action and not overwhelm them in the process. And a lot of those strategies incorporate time management skills, setting boundaries and sticking to them, and planning ahead. So I'm going to first break down how each of those three things apply to you, where you're going wrong, and then what you can do about it. When it comes to poor time management in relation to burnout, you are not being realistic about what your schedule, energy levels, and mental capacity can commit to. You are loading up your days and not giving yourself enough time to pause, take a breath, and relax. Now, sometimes there are going to be chaotic seasons in your life. Like for me, the last 10 days of September were chaotic. I had my workshop, my sister's bachelorette, a major speaker application due, and then my normal schedule on top of that. But I also knew that once October hit, I could schedule in time to breathe so I didn't burn myself out. That required me to say no to things, to resist the urge to not fill up my free time with either work-related activities or activities with friends. It's being able to carve out time for a break or even a nap so I can recover from the chaotic 10-day span when, if I'm being honest, it was the entire month of September that was chaotic. Since I had a bachelor trip at the beginning of the month and then preparation for everything at the end of the month. So this is also knowing where this time for a break or pause is going to come into my schedule before September ends. For me, I know when I put on workshops, it takes a lot of energy out of me to do, and I need to slow down the week that follows it. And because I know my calendar well, and am always referring back to it, I am not only able to schedule out time for me ahead of time, but I can also see and know where it's coming. Burnout is a feeling, but it's also a mindset. And when I can forecast when I am going to approach that feeling, it's helpful to know that there is an endpoint in my future. I understand that sometimes life slaps you every which way across the face and you feel like you can't catch a break, so it becomes tougher to see any light at the end of the tunnel, meaning you can't forecast when the season of chaos will be over. So it becomes much harder to plan in those breaks. When this happens, it's really important to take it day by day. Find the moments in your day when you can incorporate some slow restorative behaviors, like slow yoga, not power yoga, or going for a walk, not a power walk, or taking time to read or pray or meditate, even draw or write. Some kind of outlet that is calming to the brain and or body. Honestly, both, to the brain and body. A lot of times people want to overwork themselves to the point of exhaustion as a form of a distraction from what's happening in their life right now. So they'll do an intense fitness class or a crazy run to cope, but that's actually going to push you closer to your burnout breaking point. You're adding fuel to the fire when you do that instead of something more calming and restorative would add water to the fire to calm it down and not spread. You need to know your schedule and have the time management to add relief to your day. Have boundaries with people to give you back more time for yourself and recovery, and plan ahead, even if that planning ahead is within the next 24 hours. Now, I know that if you haven't experienced burnout yet, it's going to be tough for you to plan ahead for when you might start approaching that limit. So that's what I'm going to help you with throughout today's episode. Because what we don't want to happen is for you to be oblivious to the extent of your own burnout that by the time it happens, it's too late and you've already reached your tipping point and there's no going back. And as I've already mentioned, burnout occurs in different areas of your life. So I'm going to break down what happens in your career, your dating life, your health, and your life overall. So we can identify the burnout as it's approaching, not when it's already there. Starting with career burnout. Career burnout happens for the first time in your 20s, and I say first time because I know it happens again later on in life. But in your 20s, you are at the bottom of the work food chain. You're getting stuck with the dirty work. You have barely any idea as to what you're doing, and you have no confidence to speak up and ask for help or support. You enter the workforce with high expectations, hopes, and dreams, and are suddenly overwhelmed with the long hours, demanding work, and the unknown underlying competition amongst your coworkers. It's been a while since I've mentioned this, but I fully believe that college gives you a false sense of reality as to what adulting is. I think high school grooms you well because you're at school for 7 or 8 hours. Then you have homework, studying, sports, clubs, and any other extracurriculars. Then you enter college, and you have 4 years of flexible time, lighter commitments, and an overall easier schedule. Then you're thrown back into the real world, only now you've gotten a taste of what freedom feels like, and your corporate job now feels like a prison 6 months in. For me, it was 2 weeks in when I came to this realization. College schedules are good for us entrepreneurs, but it is a very rude awakening for everyone else. There's also this over-glorification to be hustling all the time at your job, to chase the promotion and succeed, to stay after hours and prove something to your boss. And that can look like working multiple jobs or constantly working overtime, so you're not letting yourself rest. I've known nurses and other healthcare workers to feel burnt out, lawyers, some sales jobs, teachers, therapists, and investment bankers, just to name a few more. And it's not to say that other careers don't experience burnout, just those are higher on the list of likelihood to experience it right off the gates. And it's because of the long hours, the high pressure environments, the emotionally draining work, and for some, the inadequate pay. There is little room for work-life balance, which means they hardly have a chance to prioritize themselves and instead are constantly needed by other people. And when you're so fresh to the working world, you don't want to complain or ask for a break because then you'll be viewed as weak and fear losing your job. So you keep your head down and continue grinding it out. After all, you're young and have no obligations outside of work, right? This is why burnout is so common. I think another part of burnout in your career is when you're first starting out, you're either given very little amounts of vacation days or you feel guilty for taking your vacation days. But let me be the first to tell you to take your damn vacation days. I want to tell you that your job is not that serious, so stop putting it on this giant pedestal. But if I'm being completely honest and real with you, the careers I mentioned that are most commonly known for burnout are high-stake important jobs. Joe Schmo in marketing having a panic attack over a little deadline is where I can say, buddy, it's not that serious. If you have a generic job, not to totally minimize the work you do, but if your job doesn't literally hold the lives of other people, then allow me to be the first to tell you that in the eyes of your company, you are replaceable. The second you leave, your role will be filled with someone new. So there is no need to get so worked up or overworked. For those of you listening who do believe you have an extremely important job, and I believe you very well might, you need to take the advice and prioritize your own self-care and what that looks like for you. Hint, hint, it means slowing down other parts of your life so you can refuel your energy and not further deplete yourself to the point of fatigue. Again, looping it back to boundaries and planning ahead. But overall, your relationship to your career is directly related to your likelihood of burning yourself out. Yes, having and keeping a job is important because you need it to fund your life outside of it, and that's the message for career burnout. Let your job fund your life outside of your work, not consume it. Otherwise, why are you working? If your work isn't your undying passion, then it's time for you to lighten the grip it has on you. When it comes to burnout in dating, as I mentioned at the start of this episode, this topic of burnout inspired the creation of it. It falls under similar parameters of if you're doing too much, then you're creating a recipe for burning yourself out. It's like dating in your 20s is the ultimate race to finding your soulmate, and if you don't constantly put action behind doing so, then you are going to lose the race and end up forever alone. We all have this delusional timeline to be married before we're 30 or by the time we're 30, and I get it, trust me. I've spent the better part of this last year trying to improve my dating life and find someone I want to spend my time with. I've been single for 3 years, so yeah, it's frustrating. But I am also someone who gets easily overwhelmed with dating, so I've put boundaries in place and am able to recognize when it's time for a break. And that break just means I'm not actively trying to set up dates, while still remaining open to someone asking me out. Dating in your 20s is filled with exploring what you want out of your relationships while navigating all the other parts of you, and it can get frustrating when you see people around you find their soulmate early on and not have to go through the struggles of being single in 2024. I made an episode on dating apps when I said it's okay for you to take a break from the endless swiping, and the same thing applies for all forms of dating, not just online. You can say no when someone asks you out. You can take a step back from actively going on dates. It doesn't mean you're going to fall behind or lose out on finding the last decent person in town. Where you risk burnout, and what I said to my friend who inspired this episode, is when you feel the need to fill your free time with dates. This friend carved out Thursday nights and Sunday evenings for dates and went on a mission every week to fill those slots. That's a lot of pressure to put on yourself, and at that point, you switch from finding quality people to meet and spend time with to just filling your time with the next available person. Going on multiple dates in a short period can become physically and mentally draining, especially if you're constantly putting effort into impressing someone or making a connection. Preventing burnout comes from making time in your schedule for quality people, not quantity. It's great to set goals around dating, but be realistic with what those goals look like. 8 to 10 dates a month is unrealistic, and it encourages dull conversations and dead-end dates, which then leaves you disappointed and possibly even feeling rejected. The human brain can only handle so much rejection at one point in time because of our natural crave for a sense of belonging. It's a survival instinct. Somewhere between 2 and 5 is a lot more doable and allows you time to breathe and find people you actually want to spend your free time with. On that topic, if you're not feeling it as the date time approaches, cancel. Obviously, don't cancel within 30 minutes of the date. But if you're still within a couple hours marks and you're like, I don't want to go, don't go, because then you're just wasting both of your times. You're not in the right headspace to be on that date, to be present, to have a good date. And then you're also dampening that other person's experience as well. Maybe you're someone who can have deeper conversations with people right away. I know I'm not one of those people. I build walls, and you have to ask politely and consistently before I let you in. But I know not everyone is like me, and they are more willing to open themselves up to people. But what they also risk is emotional fatigue, because being vulnerable repeatedly without finding a stable connection can leave you feeling depleted. You'll start to see that a lot of burnout prevention comes from knowing yourself and what your capacity is when it comes to the different categories of your life. I will say, don't put yourself on the market if you're not willing, able, and ready to add a new person into your life. We call it ready for war, WAR, willing, able, and ready. So if you're someone who is still figuring out your dating goals, then save everyone around you the time and energy and stay off the market until you are fully willing, able, and ready to be in a committed relationship. Or communicate up front that you're not looking for a relationship, you're just looking to meet people, because that is a very different mindset and expectation for that other person as well. I recently was coming off of a really good weekend and had the thought that for the first time in my entrepreneurial life, my life feels very full. So I know nothing is missing, and now I want to find someone who adds to it. And that's how I know I am finally ready to be in another relationship, while also knowing my limits around dating and that I fall under the 2 first dates a month side of the spectrum. So know what your number is, and know that depending on how other parts of your life is going, that capacity is going to change. For example, if there's work stress, family stress, friend drama, really anything negatively affecting you, it's going to decrease your capacity for handling first dates. So maybe right now you can handle 5 dates in 1 month, but then shit hits the fan and now you can only handle 1 date. This is something you're going to have to learn for yourself, and how outside of dating life factors affect you and your capacity to go on those first dates. But that's burnout in dating. The third type of burnout I want to highlight is with your health, which probably sounds odd because it's your health, and shouldn't that be a top priority and naturally ingrained at all times? But what people forget is that when you're in your 20s, your body is going to keep changing. Your habits are going to change, or worse, stay the same, but your metabolism will change, your lifestyle would change, and there is this pressure to maintain your physical appearance from when you were 20 years old, or reach a physical appearance that is viewed as desirable, again, looping it back to dating. This is where overtraining, undereating, and obsessing over the way you look, which could be marked by weighing yourself every day and or studying yourself in the mirror regularly, comes as a threat to burnout. You need rest days, a diet that you fully believe you can maintain for the rest of your life that does not include binging or restricting, and a social media feed that does not highlight other people's bodies. So it means changing your algorithm. I work at 2 different gyms, and I see and talk about the obsessive tendencies, and it's not healthy. People reach burnout when they overdo it all, and then their progress stalls, leaving them feeling demotivated, frustrated, and ready to quit. If your gym regimen and nutrition is too strict, then you're going to overwhelm yourself and take away from your quality of life. The best way to look at your health, primarily your fitness and nutrition, is exactly what I just said. Can you obtain this level for the rest of your life? If the answer is no, then you're probably doing too much. So I'm going to repeat this again. It's a lifestyle that should be supporting your quality of life, not taking away from it. So change up your workouts, take more than 1 rest day a week, limit your social media comparison, don't cut out food groups unless you medically need to, and chase health instead of looks. Because when you chase your health, aesthetics will follow. When you chase aesthetics, you lose your health. It's facts, so prioritize being healthier and the rest will follow suit. The final piece of burnout that I see happen amongst my clients is when life just throws you one obstacle after another, or in other words, as I said earlier, when shit hits the fan and you feel like you can't catch a break. This is what I mentioned earlier, where you can't really plan ahead other than 24 hours in advance, taking it one day at a time. I had one client a few months ago where she rolled her ankle pretty badly, her grandma's health was deteriorating, her brother and parents were in a massive fight, her boss was going through a major breakup, her car battery died, and this poor girl's life was so far out of her control and she was reaching major overwhelm. Burnout happens when you feel overwhelmed. And there are going to be periods in your life where it feels like a Murphy's Law situation of anything that can go wrong will. Most of which is out of your control, but is directly affecting you and your capacity to handle stress. We already put so much pressure on ourselves during this time of our life to progress our career, manage our friendships, maintain our health, pay our bills, navigate who we are and our life in general, that when multiple things go wrong at once, your already burnt out lifestyle reaches its breaking point. The media, movies, shows, whatever it is, glorifies your 20s, so when you feel like you're constantly drowning in life's demands, you're made to feel like the oddball. Like you're too weak to handle adulthood. But allow me to be the one to tell you, you're not weak. These things are just not talked about enough. Your 20s are a time for a lot of learning, and that comes with a lot of struggling. It's going to suck at times, but it's also going to be amazing at times. So it's knowing how to manage yourself and what you can handle when things do start to suck. Where you need to hold yourself back and go into restoration mode, clear your schedule of anything extra, and give yourself some much needed downtime. Learning your burnout limits is a learning process, and it's going to take some time and some mistakes until you can catch your own signs and symptoms ahead of time. Which is why I said at the beginning of this episode, you need to know your calendar and when you have additional festivities happening and what that is going to do to your ability to handle extra life loads. When you think about burnout, I want you to picture an empty cup, and every stressor that implicates your life is adding a shot of water to your empty cup. When your cup reaches its maximum capacity, you're on the verge of burning yourself out, and it's time to shelter in place, or in other words, stop what you're doing and take care of yourself first. Preventing burnout is a self-care practice and should be high up on your priority list. But hopefully by now you're able to better understand how and why burnout happens in your life and some tactics you can do to prevent yourself from reaching peak burnout. If you have any questions about this topic or want to further support, then please check the show notes and click the Let's Chat link so you can schedule a time to chat with me. I'm here for you. I don't want you to have to try and figure out your limits on your own. It's much easier when you have someone who can guide you who has been in your shoes, and that's where I come in. Otherwise, this does conclude another episode of How to 20-something. If you liked what you heard, if you related to some part of this episode or know someone going through the thick of it right now, then please share this episode, send it to a friend or post it on social media, and tag me at coach.justdiamond when you do. And as always, I can't wait to be in your headphones again next week with another brand new episode.